Hi everyone, welcome to TPS Week. Welcome People in Equity, and today we're going to be cooking with Josh. And we're going to be cooking risotto. So risotto is that classic Italian dish of rice, that creamy rice that is infused with so much flavor that MasterChef calls it one of the hardest dishes to do on their show, even Top Chef, because so many top chefs have failed to do this classic dish of risotto. But if you follow these simple steps, which I'll help show you today, you could do it in 20 minutes or less. So let's look at all of our ingredients. This is called our mise en place, as my wife Vicky has taught me. And so our mise en place is just all of our ingredients prepared in little dishes here. And this is gonna help us set our goal of creating the risotto in a timely manner. We're going to be organized in doing so. And so let's look at what we have here. We have our Parmigiano Reggiano cheese. We have so for this dish, scallions are preferred and recommended, but today, because I don't have scallions, we just have regular white onions. We have garlic. We have parsley, which is going to be used to garnish our risotto at the end. We have the cheese already prepared. We have salt, pepper. We have truffle oil. So we're going to infuse this to make it taste like truffle risotto. We have regular olive oil. We have chicken broth. So we could also substitute this with vegetable broth. Or if you're in the pinch and you don't have any broth, you can use water. We have mushrooms, so this is where you could let loose and pick any type of mushroom that you want. So it also depends on the amount of risotto you are making. So in this case, I'm just making it for two, and so I'm just eyeing it. I just have a plate filled with mushrooms, and we also have some white wine. So white wine is going to be used for acidity in our risotto. If you do not want to use wine, you could also use lemon juice. So I'm going to go ahead and start cutting the mushrooms. Okay, I'm just getting ready our mushrooms. Okay everyone, so I'm just cutting our mushrooms, preparing them for our risotto. Half an inch would do. And any type of mushroom, as I said, would also do. The risotto has a past that is quite entertaining. It started off as actually it was a dessert, and so milk was added to the dish, and so stirring milk, so almost like a milk pudding. That's how it started. And then in the 1800s, they started infusing it with saffron and wine. And the saffron would give the risotto a yellow goldish look, something that kings and queens would love. And that's how it began. Risotto had its start. And from there, there's been so many iterations of risotto. People add seafood, any type of meat, or just mushrooms, as we're doing today. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting the chicken broth into my pot. So the recommended amount of broth is 4 to 6 cups for every cup of risotto. And so one of these, which is 900 milliliters, comes out to exactly 4 cups. So this is perfect for 2 people, for feeding 2 people with our risotto. With risotto, you should typically use half a cup per person. You might want to use just a little more than half a cup if those people have big appetites. We're now going to boil the chicken stock, as it is very important. We're now going to boil the chicken stock, as it is extremely important to have the stock at a high temperature when you place the chicken stock into the rice to form the risotto. So with the risotto, we're going to be using a special type of rice called arboreal rice, because the arboreal rice has a high starch content, which is very important for capturing all of this broth. It soaks it all up. And you can use other types of rices, but it's not really recommended. Best to use the arboreal rice, which you can find in your grocery aisle. Here is our arboreal rice. So I'm just gonna put 1 cup in total. But I'm actually gonna put it all the way to the top. So a little more than a cup because I'm feeling quite hungry tonight. Okay, so I just put in some olive oil into my wok. So I'm using a wok because this is our one pot that does it all at the Botticelli household. Make sure you have a nice tall pot because your rice is going to double in size. So in our case, we're just making 1 cup for 2 people. But if you are hosting and you have a great number of guests, you're gonna want a bigger pot as it's gonna double. So once the oil is hot, we're gonna add our garlic and onions. We'll do it both at the same time. And just gonna give it a little bit of a stir. And this is one of my favorite smells in the world. Well, actually the smell of basil does top it, but the smell of olive oil mixed with garlic and onions cooking over a stovetop, it reminds me of Sunday mornings when my mom would start cooking the sauce in preparation for our lunchtime pasta meal. Our onions and our garlic, they're starting to sweat, they're starting to turn translucent. So if you just take a little note here, you can start seeing how they're starting to look, and we're gonna add our mushrooms. And we're gonna start to just sweat our mushrooms down also, as this is what's gonna infuse our rice and give it all of its flavor. And our chicken stock is starting to boil, so I'm actually gonna turn it off, as we just need the chicken stock to be warm. So let's continue cooking our mushrooms, and this is what we're gonna be using during our meal while we're cooking. It's tartufo nero, so it's black truffle. And I'm not sure if you're aware of how the truffles are actually foraged in Italy. There's wild boars, specific trained wild boars and dogs that go out in the forest and they search. They're set with their noses. They have that great sense of smell, and they find these black truffles, and white truffles, which are very rare and very expensive. So even in this oil, there's just a little speck at the bottom of black truffle, just because it's that rare, but just a little adds a lot of punch. So you don't want to overuse this. I found this at an Italian supermarket. It's a little harder to find. I know that the Cheese Boutique also does have it downtown. Thank you. So the mushrooms have started to cook down, and they're starting to get a nice little brown color to them. And this is the perfect time to start adding your arboreal rice. So we're gonna add the rice in here. And the reason for adding the rice is because we wanna toast the kernels. And this will give the rice great flavor. So we wanna make sure we don't burn it. With risotto, you can't multitask, unfortunately. So this is a dish that you have to take care, you have to always be there, and you'll definitely start to feel it in your arms because there's gonna be a lot of turning and a lot of stirring. But with food, with great love, comes great food. So we're just gonna keep toasting these kernels, and you wanna make sure that your stove's on medium. You never wanna cook a risotto, any of the ingredients in the risotto, on high or anything more than medium because you want to develop those flavors. And we're almost done toasting. So you just want to do this for a minute and a half. Next step is the step you've all been waiting for, adding the wine. A little for me, a little more, a little for me, a little for the risotto. Just a splash, and you start to hear that sizzle. And we'll just keep turning, stirring the pot until that gets soaked up, and you'll just smell that great wine smell, that aroma, and you'll know just by your movements in the pan when it's been soaked up. And when it's time to start our next phase, and our next phase is adding the chicken broth. So now we're just gonna add some salt and pepper to taste. With salt, you don't want to put too much salt, just because you're going to be adding the cheese, and that already is salty enough. So just a little dab, and now it's time to add our chicken broth. So you just grab a scoop and you place that in. So watch, we'll grab 2 scoops, and then you wait. So you have to cook it down. You can't add all of the stock to your risotto all at once. The purpose is to have the kernels, the rice, soak up all of your stock. And that only happens perfectly when you do this slowly and with love. So most importantly, it's time to put our timer on. So we're gonna put on our timer for 18 minutes because the perfect time for risotto is 18 minutes exactly to get it al dente. So it just has a little bit of bite when you bite down on it. Don't want it to be overcooked. We just want to have it al dente. So now here comes the part where it's going to get your muscle work into it, and you're going to have to keep turning. And as you're turning, you'll know when the stock has been soaked up and when it's time to add some more stock. So we're getting close to that right now. So if you just want to take a look, you can see that as I move the rice, the stock isn't as apparent as it used to be. So now's a great time to add another ladle of broth. And so I'm going to keep cooking it down and stirring. And now's the perfect time to start listening to some classic Italian music. Okay. So let's keep turning our pot. So we have 17 minutes to go. Sarà perché ti amo. Piano, piano. Okay. So we're starting to see, already it's forming. We're starting to get a creamy look, that kind of creamy look that we want. So let's add a little more stock. We're at the 11-minute mark left. So we have 11 minutes left, and we're gonna start adding some of our Parmigiano. I would say add half of what we grated. And we're going to be adding some of our truffle oil. So I'm gonna keep stirring. We're getting that creamy look and vibe, which is already smelling delicious. Already smells like it's ready, but we know it's not, because definitely you need to pass at least the 18-minute mark. So we're gonna add another ladle. Well, let's do 2 ladles of our stock, and it just soaks it right up. And you can see the steam coming right out. And even when you move your spatula, you want to see it just bounce back. Slow but steady wins the race. I just added some more stock and it's starting to really show its creaminess. It almost looks like a milk, which looks delicious. And as you can see, the portion of our rice doubled in size, if not more. Again, nice, there's a lot of weight to it. You just see right here. There we go. So I'm gonna continue. As you can see, our stock, there's not much left. We have exactly 3 minutes left, which it'll be good for our cook. If you use too much stock, then just add some water towards the end. So we're at our 18-minute mark, and so we still have a little bit of liquid. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add butter. So I forgot to mention, butter, this is optional. This just adds a little more creaminess, but it's up to you whether you wanna do that. And so we're gonna have that butter melt down, and we're just gonna give it another minute. So I'm just gonna do a little taste test. It's piping hot, so be careful. So there's a little bite when I bite down, but or else it's cooked, it's ready to go. You can see the consistency. Look at that. It's beautiful. Okay, so we're gonna plate this and garnish. As part of your garnish, once you've completed your risotto, it's always nice to have some fresh herbs, and parsley works great with risotto. So just make sure to grab a nice little handful that you'll be able to chop up and just place on top of each plate. Okay, so we're just gonna plate our risotto. Nice 2 scoops. One. Oh, keep it clean. Chefs have to keep your plate nice and clean. 1 and 2. There we go. And then we are going to add some Parmigiano. And add our finishing touch. A little bit of parsley, and let's go eat. So our risotto is complete. We did it. Cheers, Vicky. Salute. And bon appetit. Let me taste it. Let's see if it is okay. Delicious. Thanks for watching. Up next is how to bake a Japanese souffle cheesecake. Comment in the chat if you've ever tried making risotto on your own before. And what are you eating for lunch? Let me know. Or what are your plans for dinner? Talk to you soon.